Catco enclosures are installed with heaters on the inside that are able to focus directly on a valve or regulator so that they can provide direct heat right where the Joule-Thomson effect happens. If you happen to open up one, you'll probably see something a little close to this, where our clamshell design opens up and you can see the heater or heaters aiming directly at the body and valve. But what happens if something in this system begins to go wrong? Either the heater starts getting a little colder or a little weaker, you start seeing ignition problems, or it doesn't have enough power to fight the Joule-Thomson effect you're seeing. The first thing to do when doing troubleshooting is probably related to that silly computer version of, have you tried turning it off and turning it back on again? The first thing you want to do is make sure that gas is getting all the way from your supply into the heater. With something like an enclosure, you're likely looking at something like a low pressure regulator going to a low temperature shutoff valve and then the rear of the heater itself. Make sure that this regulator is actually seeing 50 pounds or less of pressure and that 4.5 inches of water column are getting to the heater. Now, 4.5 inches of water column is a very low amount of pressure and can't travel long distances. So if your low pressure regulator is, say, 6 feet or more away, by the time it reaches the back of the heater, pressure drop has probably consumed a lot of that pressure and the heater might be starving for fuel. Once you've checked to make sure all of your valves are open and the low temperature shutoff valve is functioning correctly, if you're still not seeing gas get all the way to the heater to start that reaction, you might want to check right at the orifice. See, every heater has a small little orifice at the rear that can be very easily covered by things like pipe tape, debris in the line, or anything else that might be inside of your pipes that can block up that space, even like, say, water droplets filings. If that happens, it's going to accumulate on the back side of the low temperature shutoff valve, which may need to be removed to verify that orifice is clear. If your Catco catalytic heater is not pre-warming when you are starting the heater up, make sure that you're using the correct voltage in the junction box. Every heater should come with a label that should tell you what voltage and what amperage you need. For those of you using car batteries with starting cables, make sure that the battery that you're using isn't too old to provide enough power to the heater. But once you've properly connected to the junction box or to the power cables to the battery, give it 10 to 15 minutes to pre-warm and you should be able to feel that on the rear of the heater. Lastly, if you've checked your gas flow and the gas flow doesn't seem to be the problem, the electricity doesn't seem to be a problem, your low temperature shutoff valve and thermocouple don't seem to be the problem either, there's a possibility that the heater itself might be damaged, especially the catalyst. Things like water from rain or snow, or in the gas line itself, debris like dust storms or from the pipeline itself, and especially sulfur in the lines, greater than about 5 parts per million, can be very damaging to a heater. And over time, instead of seeing this nice white glossy covering on your heaters, you might start to see discoloration like this. If you start to see any reds, yellows, greens, or areas that look like they are water damaged, this is a pretty good indication that there's probably some sort of environmental or gas quality issue that's getting into your heater and causing it to start to fail. This is a good opportunity to replace this heater and add in maybe an extra line of filters on your gas line going in.